All right. It's great to see everybody here tonight. Welcome to another class of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program Teacher Certification course. Please be seated. For those of you online also, it's great that you're here and joining us. It would behoove you to join us every time you get an opportunity. There's a lot to learn here. So now we are in the Peaceful Solution Building Moral Excellence Character Unit, the Teacher's Manual. And this is the advanced series. You could say high school if you wanted to for that. And just to go over a couple things real quick, and I'll show you at the end too, but last week, or last class, I showed, excuse me, I showed some different books. Let's look at them right there. See, it's kind of colorful there. There's ownership, respect, asking, self-control, and then it all comes together with not stealing anybody's authority, not stealing their ownership, not stealing their respect, and being sure to ask and so forth. And these are neat little books. I used to use these when presenting the Peaceful Solution. And so I had a few people asking about it, and they were wanting to get them from where you can order the books. If you now, some of you are online and you're downloading the particular book that we're studying in. But if you get the physical book and you want to get the physical books, these are available. I just wanted to show you how they come. That was the 5th grade student workbooks that you saw. There's a teacher's companion and teacher's manual that goes with it. This is the 3rd grade. Comes in a little pack with all of them in there. See? Hold it up here and let you see too. All right. And then there's also the 1st grade manual, the student manuals, and here it is right here. It's got a bunch of flashcards in it too for the younger children. And it's a great set of books to have if you've got some young children around the house too. But again, I used these books in showing, I'll tell you, prison wardens, school principals, a bunch of different people. I would just show them this so they would get the basic idea of what we were studying. They could kind of grasp it better than throwing a book in front of them and they poked through it and really didn't know anything about what it was talking about. This way it set something in their mind. And it worked really, really well, by the way. So anyway, that's what I did. That's what some others did. Works really great. Something colorful there, and they are available. I just wanted to show you what it looked like. I know some people thought that they might be coloring books, but they're not coloring books. Those are the Peaceful Solution student manuals right there. All right, so anyway, that being said, we're back here in the Building Moral Excellence book. And by the way, the next class will be on, this coming Sunday at 5:30 p.m. This coming Sunday at 5:30 p.m. Join us for class again, those of you online and those of you in person here, for the teacher certification course, okay? It would help you to get the teacher's manual, but you can do it with the student's manual also. You just have a few more resources with the teacher's manual. And that's on Sunday the 18th, by the way. Sunday the 18th at 5:30 will be the next class. Should be Chris teaching that class. Looking back over where we've been, we're going to be starting out in page 12 in a minute. But just looking over where we've been, we started out with, I think it was Chris that started and went through a preface and introduction, and then William, and of course how to use the program, and chapter 1, our foundation, the note to the teacher. And there were a few other things that were read. I know in the student handbook there's a page that's not in the teacher's manual that has, it was the Senate in one of the states, I think it is, and there was a man that actually had some great things to say, and that's pretty great. But anyway, moving along here, we've got the lesson plan. Once you get into this chapter, lesson 1, character, my foundation. That's on lesson plan 1, page 1. You go to lesson plan 1, page J, and you have the procedures that we're working on currently. Let's go ahead and turn there. Lesson Plan 1, page J. We finished up with procedure number 2, and now I wanted to let you know that the combination of personality and character makes each person unique, and that in addition to moral principles, which we talked about those a little bit, and we'll be talking about them more. If you don't understand it yet, you will. Other factors help to shape both character and personality. And it says to have the class turn to the section called In Addition to Morals, found on page 12. All right, now if you're in a classroom setting, you can choose students to read. But I want to point this out too. Go ahead and turn on over to page 12 real quick, and let's look at that. All right, so in addition to morals, you see that header right there, and there's a paragraph, and that's it. And then you see heredity. If you look over on the next page, you'll see values. If you go on over, you'll see environment eventually. And what these are subsections. Go back to the lesson plan. I want to explain something. Lesson Plan 1, page J. It's the third procedure for those of you that have a teacher's manual. Notice it says have the class turn to the section entitled In Addition to Morals, found on page 12. And then you really don't see any more page numbers listed. When you get down to procedure number 4, the first time you see a page number listed is page number 19. So we got this huge gap of pages missing somehow, right? Well, not so. We start off on page 12 with In Addition to Morals, and that's kind of like the header with that statement. And then we lead into these subsections. The subsections are on heredity, values, and the environment. These are pages 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 that are there that we'll be going through also. But since they're listed as the subsections, we just didn't list them. We just didn't list the page numbers. It's okay. So now that you know, I've told you there, right there at the top, it says tell students that in addition to moral principles, other factors help to shape both character and personality. Have the class turn to the section entitled In Addition to Morals, found on page 12. And then we'll move on and go through the subsections of heredity, values, and environment, and we'll allow time for students to complete the accompanying exercise after each section, which we will do. So let's go ahead and turn on over to page 12. All right. At the top of page 12, have we got anybody that wants to read that real quick? Just joking. We don't have a mic out there for you, so read it silently and you can go along with me here. But you can inherit character traits, but ultimately your character is what you make of it. That's a quote from the Peaceful Solution. And did you see that? It says that you can inherit character traits. Really? Really? I mean, I see this guy sitting over here and I think he's got a great character. And you mean he inherited some of that? Really? Wow, I got to find out more about this. Okay, so in addition to morals, now that you know the difference between character and personality, which hopefully you do, if you don't, all you have to do is go back and look. And here's page 6. At the top of page 6, it has a great definition of there, fairly simple. Character is the combination of morals and beliefs that dictates how we treat others, our environment, and ourselves. Now, that's the short part. You can go on. It's the basis of every thought, action, and decision is derived, and it's the means of which we distinguish between right and wrong. And personality is just the combination of our personal preferences, attitudes, likes and dislikes, social skills, etc. Okay? So maybe we can get that down there. So now that you know the difference between character and personality, let us explore some of the factors that shape personality, which play an integral role in the further development of character. Okay, here we go. All right. Get that. So the first thing, this is one of those subsections. It's called heredity. Now, how many of you have ever heard, you can raise your hand if you want to, don't have to, but how many of you have ever heard a doctor say something to you like, well, that's hereditary, like some disease or something? Have you ever heard that? Hereditary? How many have you ever heard say that If you've ever known anyone that was involved in alcoholism or drug abuse, how many of you have you ever heard, say, a doctor or a counselor or psychologist or somebody, drug rehab, say that, some of that is hereditary? You ever heard that? How many of you have ever heard that your character... Well, let me ask you this. How many of you have ever heard that music, an inclination towards being musical, is hereditary? You ever heard that? You got somebody who likes music a lot, and they're just into it. It's part of their life. They play instruments and everything. And then they have offspring, and those offspring, or at least one or two of them, like musical, are involved in music and like instruments and learn how to play very easily and can sing and so forth and so on. You ever heard that? It's real. It's true. Well, it's the same thing with everything about you. Let's go ahead and read a little bit there. Before you were born, the combination of your parents' genes started forming your physical traits, ours, such as the color of our eyes, our skin, and our hair. And did you know that genetics is also responsible for the behavioral similarities you share with your parents and other family members? Okay, so hold on right there. All right, so we all know, anytime I see women do this all the time, I haven't heard very many men say anything like this, but I've heard women say, someone has a baby and they come up and they got the baby and they look at it and say, "Oh, that has your mother's eyes," or "your grandma's nose," or something along those lines, right? They can see that hereditary, those genes, the things that have been inherited. They see it in the face. Well, just like the color of eyes and skin and hair. So also, though, our behavior. Remember, we mentioned just a minute ago that if there's an alcoholic somewhere in our family, then there's a possibility that someone in our family later on down the road is going to be an alcoholic. And it might not hit everybody, but it could hit some. That inclination could be there. I know when people are asked about suicide, something drastic has taken place, they start trying to find out if suicides were something that ever took place in the family, in the genes, in the family tree. And a lot of times that's the case, as well as many other things. Has anyone ever told you that you act just like another family member? Oh, you're just like your dad. Have you ever noticed similar behavioral traits between your friends and their families? Okay, there you go. So now, if you can't see it in yourself, maybe you can see it with others. There was a story, which I can't remember all the facts about it, but I remember the basics, which the basics are, a young man died. There was a woman that needed a heart transplant. A young man died in an accident, and this young man was very active. He was a rappeller, mountain climber, bike rider, runner, just all this stuff, and he carried around with him peanut butter like everywhere he went, because he used that for sustenance and for protein and energy. And so he loved peanut butter. Well, here's this woman that needs a heart transplant, and she couldn't care less about peanut butter, right? But anyway, the young man dies. Long story short, she gets his heart. And there's a lot of memories stored in all of our genes. It is memory, that DNA. Anyway, long story short, she gets his heart, and one of the first things she wants when she comes out of it is, guess what? Peanut butter. She had a just urge for peanut butter. And it turned out she started loving peanut butter. Okay, I might have got a couple of little facts wrong or something, but that's the basis of the story. It's a real deal, real story. And we might even hear about it later on about it too. Someone might even read it. But okay, both positive and negative behavioral traits can be inherited. For example, humor and aggression. So you might be hearing some things that you haven't heard before. And you might be thinking, well, that sounds like a little bit of hooey. But really, stop and think about these things. Just like we said, you can inherit the looks, you can inherit, um, you know, there's many families of police officers, many families of firemen, many families of preachers, where, those genes just passed on and passed on and passed on down the lines, and it was in those people's, they inherited the inclination to do that job, and then they did pretty well at it once they started doing it for their love of the job that they inherited. Doesn't mean that they have to do it. It just means it's there, and they could be inclined to go that way. Others might want to do something totally different. But both positive and negative behavioral traits can be inherited, for example, humor and aggression. But unlike physical traits that are fixed and cannot be changed, like our eye color, and I do mean really changed. I don't mean, by putting some dye in them or some kind of colored contacts or something like that, or having them cut out and new ones put in or something, I'm talking about they just can't be changed by you wanting to change it. But unlike physical traits that are fixed and cannot be changed, behavioral traits can be altered. Now, isn't that great? So if you have a problem, it's part of your character, maybe something negative, guess what? You can change it. If it's something negative in your personality, you can change it. So behavioral traits can be altered, and inheriting negative qualities like aggression, for instance, does not mean that you have to accept that as a permanent part of your character. That's right. If you grew up with something like that in your household and it was part of your everyday life, and you thought you could never get away with it, it was just part of your life, that's not true. You can put it away. It takes a lot of work. Even the perpetrator, the person that was doing it and even bringing it on, and anybody can change. You can change. But obviously, no one is a carbon copy of his or her parents or other family members. Each person, as he matures, becomes capable of making decisions that can alter his character. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more, that a lot of things around us can affect our character, environment, the influences from other people, the influences that we inherited, our upbringing, so forth, all these things. I'm not getting too deep into it right now, but each person as he matures becomes capable of making those decisions to alter his character, and therefore each person can develop behavioral traits that are independent of the traits he has inherited. Now, inherited behavioral traits such as aggression can be altered by choices. You're going to hear a lot about choices. Choices, the environment, and influences that are present in an individual's life. Excuse me. For example, a child who has a propensity, a leaning towards aggression, can be trained to control his thoughts and actions to avoid acting aggressively. Now, nobody said it was going to be easy in doing these things. Whether it's you as a parent or a teacher or guardian that's dealing with somebody, a young person, for instance, that has this propensity for aggression, it can be a tough thing to do sometimes. It doesn't go away overnight. And you might find that all the punishment you could throw their way doesn't change anything. You might get them to stop for a minute. What you have to work on is changing their heart and mind. And this is what the Peaceful Solution Character Education program does. It changes the heart and mind, step by step, little by little, by you as the teacher using patience and self-control and all the knowledge that you have and your great character, and you put all of these things together, and that's how you can teach these young people. That's how you can teach old people. That's how you can teach yourself. You have to be patient. It doesn't occur overnight. We're going to have a question here, question and answer. It says, answer the following question. Now, if we've been listening and following along, we might know this, but what behavioral trait do you share with other family members? Now, you don't have to answer that to me. Excuse me. But stop and think about it for just a minute. And really, what behavioral trait do you share with another family member? Same hair color? Same eye color? Are you short? Are you tall? You know, as you get a little bit older, do you have a lot of hair? Do you have kind of balding a little bit or something? You know? Do you have long arms, short arms, big feet, big nose, small nose? I mean, you name it. There's so many things. And if you think about it, every one of us knows something that we share with another family member as far as some type of facial feature or character trait. And it says behavioral trait right there. So what other behavioral trait do you share with a family member too? You know, do you tend to be quiet? Do you tend to be introverted, extroverted? Do you tend to be aggressive, non-aggressive? You know, think about it for a minute. But moving on, let's go on to values. Now, there's in-depth, this is pretty in-depth too, but if you wanted to go back and check it out in the intermediate series, if you missed it, you might want to go look. But in the intermediate series on page 6, it has a section on values, which really spells it out. And this one's going to also. It's presented just a little bit differently. Your values are the principles or qualities that you consider to be important or worthwhile. This is at the top of page 13. They also play a key role in the formation of your character and personality. And why is that? Your values are principles or qualities that you consider to be important. All right. And they play a role in the formation of your character and personality. There's many types of different values. Some values pertain to how you think and behave. These are moral values. Get it? Moral values. How you think, how you behave. Other values pertain to what you want to accomplish in life. Education, fame, wealth, etc. What you consider beautiful. There are also personal values such as hygiene and appearance, as well as music and art. So think about all the variety of different sets of values and value systems that people have, which there's the value system we'll be talking about a little bit later. But what you value comes from several sources. Your first and most influential teachers were your parents. They've been sharing their values with you from the moment you were born and even before. The things your parents considered important are what you have been taught to value. Babysitters, teachers, friends, the media, they've also played a key role in influencing your values. And if you don't think media influences your values, take another look at it, because it most definitely does. Especially challenging is when, you watch the news and you see all this political information that's out there now in these times of year when there's a political race going on, especially for president. It tends to get really heated when the presidential race is on. And you can hear anything you want to about either one of the candidates. And usually it's pretty rough. But you can either choose to listen to that or put it aside and say, I'm going to find out for myself. Listen to it or put it aside. The sum of your values is called your value system. Your value system is the means by which you rank or prioritize the things that are important to you. How you prioritize your values is the basis by which many of your decisions are made. For example, if you rank education as your most important value, when faced with a choice to study for an exam or to spend time with your friends, you would choose to study. If you didn't rank it, you wouldn't choose to study. You would choose to go watch TV or play ball or go to the park or do whatever. But looking over this for a minute, think about your values. Your value system is the means by which you rank or prioritize the things that are important to you. Would it bother you to steal something? Yes? That's up here then. Could you just kind of not care less whether you stole something or not? Yeah, that's down here then. Do you get a kick out of stealing? That's way down here, Your value system. It's your values. And for everybody sitting in this auditorium, and everybody there online right now watching this, all of us have different value systems. Now, we can all have different things we agree on, and we can all have same value systems to some degree, and most people do. But when you look out there, just like the stealing, some people have a very high regard for human life. I mean, such a high regard for human life that it's up there to where they would never even think of joining the military or even being possibly a police officer, where they thought they might have to, shoot somebody at some point in time, or, some other type of line of work where that could come into play. So they have their value system set up where they would say, I'm never being a part of that. Others are like, oh, well, I would never kill anybody, but, if I was a police officer and I had to, well, surely I would. Or, well, if I was in the military, I would never kill anybody. But if I was in the military, and we were at war, well, yeah, I'd go to war. I'd kill someone if I had to, So see the different levels, the different ones, and different people are different when it comes to that. Even sitting in this room right here. I'm not saying that you have a different value on life. I hope you all have an extreme high regard for life. But that just gives you an example of how you do it. So in this cloud down below there, it says, for example, if you rank education as your most important, you're going to study. If you don't, you're not. Now look at the little cartoon-looking thing down at the bottom. It has, they're thinking about it. What do you value? Marriage, children, college, you value a car, and your values change along the way too. When you're a 16-year-old young man or young man, you might be valuing cars more than you ought to, You got it in you and all. Some people do, and they put that up there. I remember I did some too. Do you value money more than you do some of these other things? I mean, you could move these around, and everybody in here would have just a little bit different right there, okay? All right, so you see, values, it's what's important to you, okay? So keep that in mind, and let's move on over to page 14. So continuing on with these values. Just as no two people are exactly alike, no two people have the same system of values. Even members of the same family might have different values. For example, you might value staying at home and reading, while your brother might value going to the library. Your sister might like going to college, whereas you would rather go to trade school. That occurs a lot. A lot of people choose, instead of going to college, going to some type of trade school, or vice versa. Or not at all. The most important thing to remember about your values is that they can change based on your experiences. And you might want to underline these to get an idea of what some of the things that can change them. Highlight, underline, do something. Remember this. They can change based on your experiences, your influences, and the environment. Therefore, periodically evaluate the things that are important to you. And ask yourself if what you're valuing will support your positive growth and character development. I mean, I catch myself sometimes. I know the other teachers of the Peaceful Solution, all of them, the students, the other teachers, everybody, we should be catching ourselves sometimes, not doing quite what we really should do and want to do. Might be we've made a bad choice. Might be we've made a mistake along the way, and look back and say, oh man, how did I get involved in that? So ask yourself if what you're valuing will support your positive growth and character development. And if not, look at it really hard and see if you can start changing it. Make your mind up. Set your mind in advance to change that pattern. Find a way to remind you. Find a way to kind of snap you out of it, kind of kick you into gear a little bit, Find a way to remind you that, hey, I don't need to be doing this, okay? For example, if yielding to peer pressure just to be popular is more important to you than maintaining positive character, or you'll respect others and treat them fairly, then you need to stop and reprioritize your values. You think about it. And remember, values help you to make choices. That's what makes you helps you to make those choices, is you've already got it in you. It's already important to you. It's up here on the chart. Or the thing you don't want to get involved in is like way down here on the chart, okay? It's a fact that people who make popularity their top priority, and there are many that have. We've all known people that do that. I knew people in school that did that. I knew people in the work site that did that. In order to fit in and be accepted, they can easily be pressured into negative behavior. So be careful how you rank your values. And here's a little cartoon down here. What do you want to do for family night? Looks like probably mom and dad. And here we have the family. Oh, let's go bowling. Let's go to the movies. Let's make cookies. Let's play a game. So what do you want to do tonight? I mean, they're so confused that everybody wants to do something different. See, they all have different things that are important to them and they value a little bit differently. Okay? But be careful how you rank those values. Be careful what you put up there at number one. You know, when people are involved in abusing drugs, they have a high rank up there on their ability to get those drugs. It's up there. They want the drugs. When people are involved in many situations, negative situations like that, and it's part of their life, and it's like they don't want to change. They want to be. It doesn't seem like you can get through anything to them, and they just want to keep on living like they're living. It's because they haven't checked their value system yet. There's a lot of steps to getting there. There's a lot of steps to changing your value system, to changing those values. And again, step by step, and you have to have patience and self-control and respect for yourself and others. But let's look on over to page 15 on ranking your values. So here's something that everybody can do. I'm going to read it. It says to read the following list of values and rank them from 1 to 20 based on your preference. Now, this particular thing, you don't have to do, in the classroom if you don't want to. You can send it for homework. You can do it in the classroom. You can go over it in the classroom if you want to. I'm just going to briefly go over it here. So ranking your values has a little place right there where you can put a check mark or a X or something on the ones that you value the most, or put them in order like 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's what it says. Rank them from 1 to 20. So that's what you'd want to do, is put the number in there, not just a check mark or something. So if clothes were your number one thing on your priority list up here, you'd put number 1. Before you do that, though, you might look at the rest of it on the list, because if family or religion or life itself or health or your career or some of these things are worth more to you than the clothes necessarily, you might want to change that number. Take a look real quick. We have listed, clothes, family, jewelry, education, fun, friends, religion, life, sports, being an individual, independent, health, career or work, attractiveness, being accepted like your peers. That attractiveness, especially when you get in the teenage years, boys and girls alike start getting really carried away with the attractiveness thing, and it carries on too. But fairness and honesty, marriage, money, going to college, privacy, or a positive moral character. Man, that one right there is one I would want to see way up there at the top of the list. Because if it's at the top of the list, all the rest of that stuff is going to come into play where it needs to come into play. Without a positive moral character, none of these other things are going to work out for you. You would make the wrong choices in clothes. You'd make the wrong choice in family. You'd get carried away with some of these other things. You have to have that positive moral character to lead your life. It says, so how did you do? By by prioritizing your values, you've gained insight into your system of values. For instance, there's nothing wrong with ranking friends and friendship as important. But if you choose to be immoral, that is, to engage in premarital sex or take drugs in order to keep your friends or be accepted by friends, then you are negatively affecting your character. So be careful that you're not influenced to prioritize your values in a manner that would adversely affect your positive moral development. Because if you put money up there at the top of your list, you are going to be negatively affected because your main goal is to make money. You're going to do it whatever way you can. So be careful that you're not influenced to prioritize your values in that manner that would adversely affect your positive moral development. Now, another key role that values play in the formation of your character is in determining how you achieve or pursue the things that are important. Because there's different ways to get what you want. There's the right way and there's the wrong way. There's the legal way, the illegal way. There's the positive moral way and there's the negative way. So in determining how you achieve or pursue the things that are important to you, on over to page 16, those who value money and wealth with moral principles will work. So did you get that right there? Those who value money and wealth, not necessarily at the top of the list, but those who value money and wealth with moral principles will work, save, and invest in order to gain the wealth they value. Those with immoral principles will choose dishonest ways such as theft, embezzlement, or fraud to achieve their wealth. And many people value children and raising a family. Those with moral principles will marry and start a family. If they can't have children, they will consider adoption. On the other hand, people who lack moral principles have been known to steal other people's children or to adopt illegally. And then it has an article for us to read. Think about that for just a minute on valuing the money and wealth and how easy it is to get carried away with that. You know, all of our lives we're seeing it around us. We know we have to have it to buy things and so forth. And so a lot of people tend to seek that out without having those great moral principles backing the decisions that they're making on gathering money and wealth. Might want to stay hydrated there. Very hot. All right. So, this article that I'm going to read, this was actually in Abilene, Texas. A woman snatched a month-old baby from a van in a store parking lot Tuesday and drove away as the child's horrified mother held on desperately to the getaway vehicle. I mean, could you even imagine the terror that the mother would be experiencing at this time? The abduction occurred about 4:30 p.m. at a super Walmart. Well, I live near Abilene, and I know where those super Walmarts are, so this is close to home. The mother had just placed her 3 children, including a 2- and 6-year-old, into the family van and was returning a shopping cart to a storage area about 10 feet away. Think about that one right there. I'll come back to that. She then saw her infant girl taken from the van and placed in the car. The mother started screaming and trying to get the woman to stop. The mother got there in time to grab onto the car and was dragged about 30 to 40 feet as the car sped away. At this time, the mom might not be caring so much about her own life even, just doing it because she does, care about the daughter. She does want to get her daughter and so forth. But the month-old, I don't know if this is an experienced mother or not an experienced mother, but we'll talk about that in a minute. She was later treated for cuts and bruises. Police said the suspect, Paula Lynn Roach, 24, was being held on a charge of aggravated kidnapping. Do you think that this mother ever again placed her child in the car before returning the shopping cart? No, I bet not. So this is something she learned the hard way, I think. by just thinking, oh, it's right here. I'm just going to set the baby in there, get her in her car seat and everything, and then return the cart. You know, might have been just like right there or just across over here or something. But whatever the case, it was enough time for somebody to grab that child and go. The tragic thing. I mean, I can't even imagine the horror that was experienced during that time. So, this is stealing. This is kidnapping. This is a dishonest way to get children. But yet people do this. And kidnapping is way up there. There's a lot of kidnapping going on. I didn't have I thought about bringing some articles for you on that. And due to the shortage of time, I elected not to at this time, but might be someone will, maybe someone with a slideshow that they want to show when it comes up. Let's go ahead on over to page 17. But looking back again, just for a minute, you can turn to page 17. I just wanted to mention that in addition to morals, remember heredity, values, and then values, ranking your values, remembering the influences around us, the environment we grew up in. And this is what this is talking about right here, environment. So in addition to your inherited behavioral traits, the ones that are passed down from generation to generation, and your values, environment also plays a key role in the development of your character. The environment, all around you. The combination of your family, how your home life is structured, your culture. Think about different cultures and different customs that take place in communities. Your community. All these things help to shape your environment. Culture can be described as the total or shared attitudes, beliefs, and behavior that distinguish one group of people from another. All right? An example might be a culture that believes that they should fight for what they want, to physically cause harm to people to get what they want and make a statement. Then you might have a group of people that want to make a statement and bring things to people's attention, but they do it a different way. And this community group, this culture of people, might actually be wanting to do it by maybe having some signs or contacting representatives and so forth, and doing it a peaceful way. And I know a lot of times you think of culture as like an ethnicity, for instance, like the Spanish culture eats this type of food, the Greek culture eats this kind of food, the Italian culture, they eat this kind of food. Of course, we know everybody eats all kinds of different food, but different things that they do. I've seen documentaries on Indian marriages, like in India. Marriages in India are quite different than what a marriage would be like in the United States. A marriage in another country could be quite different than what we're used to seeing. But that's ethnicities, but culture also. So culture can be described as the total of the shared attitudes, their beliefs, their behavior that distinguish one group of people from another. There are many different cultural indicators such as food, music, clothing, even sports. For example, the Italian culture is well known for their pastas and pizzas. The Caribbean culture is known for calypso and reggae music. The American culture is known for baseball, apple pie, and hot dogs, and hamburgers and French fries. Customs or traditions are established practices that are accepted by a group of people that are passed down from one generation to the next. Customs or traditions are established practices that are accepted by a group of people and then are passed down from one generation to the next. When I was growing up, there was a custom in our house at a certain time of the year to give presents and all that stuff, a custom, a tradition. I found out later a little bit more about it, but it was something that was passed down in that household, which it is like in a lot of different households. For example, many cultures, there's a custom of passing down a piece of jewelry to a woman on her wedding day, too. Both culture and customs play a significant role in determining how your home life is structured and what you've been taught to value. In some cultures, children are raised in an environment where respect, obedience, and strong work ethic are practiced. In other cultures, women are taught to value dressing modestly. They wear clothes that don't reveal their form or shape, and there's a strict adherence to a specific code of behavior. In addition to this, some cultures forbid customs such as dating. Marriages are prearranged. In other cultures, dating is accepted, and individuals are free to choose their mates on their own. Now, that's two drastic differences right there, right? One culture, you're free to date, choose who you want to marry, go do your thing. Another one is, nope, you're going to marry this person. We've checked into their family, and this is how it's going to be. You were raised together. You've been promised to this person since y'all were children, that type of thing. Well, so quite a difference there, right? Another important aspect of your environment is the community where you live and your involvement with members of that community. And in all these things, in these different cultures, in practicing these different customs or traditions, sometimes people believe so much in their culture or tradition or custom that they don't think other people should be practicing those things. And they even go to war to fight those things and to change that culture, to try to change those practices, to get rid of those traditions and so forth. But another aspect of your environment is the community where you live and your involvement with members of that community. These factors can affect your moral development because they can influence the type of character and personality you develop. And remember, influences, for those of you who've been with us during the entire program so far, and you out there that are learning to be teachers of the Peaceful Solution, you've got to remember that word right there, that influence, and how really important it is. There's influences all around us. In fact, literally everything is an influence. Everything we see, everything we read, everything we smell, everything we watch, everything going on around us, everything you can be influenced by. And it can affect your character, and it can affect your personality too. So we want to guard against negative influences. But studies show that children who have little or no adult supervision and live in areas with high rates of crime, gang activity, drug use, and drug trafficking are more likely to become involved with gangs, experiment with drugs, and view drug trafficking as a viable source of income. Think back on yourselves, what you were involved in your growing up. When you were a child, when you were growing up as a teenager, what did you get involved in? What did you get involved in because of the other children around you? Because of the environment around you? School, whatever. When I look at myself, I look back and I see things where I surely would have tried to do it differently if I would have known what I know now. But as a child, a lot of times you're working at fitting in. And that's one of the things we're talking about here. You have to have a strong value system built up to guard against getting involved in things that you shouldn't get involved in. And so you've got to work on these things. And as someone trying to change their character, someone trying to change their hearts and minds so you can improve your life, so that you can bring peace instead of bringing war, these are the things that you have to do right here. These step-by-step things. And knowing, getting this knowledge of knowing where some of this stuff inside us came from is great to have. Because you wonder, man, why am I this way? Why can't I get past this? Why do I always go back to doing this thing, Well, now you know. Gaining knowledge, being educated about ourselves, about society, about other people. This is a very important thing, and it's one of the first steps that's mentioned when we're talking about the positive character traits in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, which you'll get to see that coming up. I'm not going to jump ahead. That would be taken away from the next teacher. But in the next several pages, you will get to see a list of positive character traits in the Peaceful Solution, and the Peaceful Solution list. And at the very top of that list, I'm going to go ahead and spring this one on you. It is, guess what? I just mentioned it, educated. Get educated. Get all these facts. Understand the why and how of why all of these things are taking part in your life, of what's going on. We're going to be coming to a close here pretty soon this evening, and before we go, I want to go back and mention just a couple things that you can keep in your mind. First of all, even though we're in another book, and we've come out of the intermediate series on to the high school or advanced, it's important to remember things like the basics that we've learned along the way, like, and I mentioned it before, the setting our mind in advance. Actually determining in our mind not to be a part of this thing that we want to change in our life, a bad character trait, a negative character trait, or change something within our personality too that might improve our life, but we definitely want to work on that character. That's what's going to make all the difference in the world. But when we see that thing that we want to change, we've got to set our mind in advance that we don't want to get involved in that again. And then we have to have a plan. We have to have a plan on how we're not going to do that. Well, of course, the Peaceful Solution helps you with that too. And others that have been practicing and studying for a long time the Peaceful Solution, you can get ideas on how they were able to stop doing something. What was it that they put in front of them to remind them not to do this thing they're trying to get out of, that's either wasting their time or making their life miserable, drugs or abuse of alcohol, or might be some argumentative trait there that you want to get rid of, that you want to argue all the time, or fight, or aggression, these things that you want to get out of you. Set your mind in advance and determine not to do it again, and then set that plan. And then you got to keep in mind, this is pretty basic here, and y'all have heard me say it and the other teachers say it probably 1,000 times, but what you've got to do is you've got to be willing. You have to remember, you have to know that you're not going to do it perfect every time when you set this plan. You start out doing it, you might go along really well, and then all of a sudden, boom, somebody throws that curveball at you. You hit that pitfall. I mean, something just comes your way. It just hit you so hard, or it came out of nowhere. You just weren't ready for it. You were weak. Maybe you stayed up late one night, or was working hard one night, and you just felt weak, and man, here it comes. It's not an excuse for you, but it's for you to know that that's going to take place from time to time. You're going to make a bad choice, or you're going to make a mistake, a bad decision in this thing, and it's going to hit you. Well, what do? You just give up? It's just impossible? No, you've come this far. Just remember about it. Again, set your mind in advance one more time and say, man, I'm just not going to do that. I got to try this again. I'm going to do that same thing again, or maybe get some more ideas on what I can do. And you understand, you have to forgive yourself. You have to really get past it. Kick yourself once or twice, move on, and now start working on getting past it again. Don't hold it against yourself so heavy. So that's the things, that's basic things that we have to remember when we're doing these things. And again, of course, the difference between the character and personality, where there's a couple different things where it's stated throughout this book. And back again when you I guess the best spot there is on page 6 up at the top, when it says what is the difference, and it says the character is the combination of morals and beliefs that dictates how we treat others, our environment, and ourselves, and then personality is that combination of preferences, attitudes, likes, and dislikes. And remember, attitude is everything. Get that right attitude. Keep a positive mental attitude. Better to smile than to frown. You get more bees with honey, so they say, it's something to remember. And remembering that morality can be divided into the three basic categories. It's really easy to put them in just three. You might have things going through your mind on well, what's this? What's that? What is this category? No, just put it in three. One is life. It's a behavior and attitude towards all life, Behavior and attitude towards possessions and property. So there we go. There's two of them there. And then one more. Behavior and attitude towards the environment. And see, that covers everything. It covers absolutely everything right there. So that's an easy thing to remember. And then, of course, by using self-control and stopping and thinking and considering your options and thinking about all these things and having that right attitude and then making the right choice when you can stop and do that. But we don't always stop and do that. So we are going to, again, before we close out, I want to show you this one more time. For those of you that asked to see this again, here's the books laid out right there, kind of in order. This was particularly the grade 5 student booklets, and they're very colorful, and it grabs the mind, and it kind of sticks in a person's mind, and they can kind of grasp, ownership, respect, asking, and they kind of get it in there instead of going up to them and you show them a book and start flipping through some pages, or they start flipping through a few. This is in depth. They're not really going to latch on to this just by flipping through it and looking at it while you're talking to them. On the other hand, they will remember some of this and say, oh, okay, I see now, even though it's very basic. And this is how they come. They come wrapped up like this right here. Some of you were asking, where you could order them. And, of course, you can call a Peaceful Solution. You can get these. They do have some still left. And this is one of the grade 3. Comes like this. The kindergarten and grade 1 comes with some flashcards and so forth. So there you go. Wanted to show you that one more time. And then on the 18th, right, on Sunday the 18th at 5:30 p.m., our class will be starting again, and it should be Chris. And he will probably do a little quick review, but he will be starting then on page 18. So we'd like to thank everybody. And you got some great stuff coming up, building blocks of character, positive character traits, these basic things. You're going to hear some more about setting your mind in advance and so forth. It's all there for you. Hope you all come. Great that you're here. Hope to see you again. Thank you.